What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Woman Be Healed podcast, the podcast all about acknowledging the opportunity to heal, harnessing the power of forgiveness by leaning on God and community. I'm your host, Rashonda Powell. What's up, y'all? So it has been a few weeks since we last chopped it up. Last episode, we had a little low-key Bible study about Ruth. And what's so crazy is I talked about mourning in that episode, and not even a few days later, my family got some bad news about one of our old friends. And in that episode, I stated that death is one of those things that is so hard to understand because each situation is unique, whether it is inspected or that we feel it was out of nowhere. And when a loved one leaves this earth, while they may still be going to an amazing place, that none of this crazy mess going on that we still experience on earth is there, it still hurts to have that feeling of not having it with us anymore. So, but anywho, after that episode, I just needed a cool off period, and it's okay to have those. Don't ever feel like you are so tied to something that you can't give yourself room to breathe and think. And I love y'all, but I love me too, okay? Okay, and another reason is because before I jump on this mic, I have to make sure that I'm in a space where I know that when I get up here, that I'm speaking from a place where God has given me and moved me to. And also that I have some insight on what I may be speaking about. Because one thing that I don't want to come on here doing is shooting y'all some BS that I can't even relate to or know what I'm talking about. Because then that's not real. And that's not why I'm doing this in the first place. I'm here to be the realest me that I can be without compromising me for the sake of anybody or anything else. Like, I want to stay true to my beliefs, my values, my God, no matter what. Okay. And I want to hold myself to that. Okay. So, what I want to speak on in this episode is actually something that has been really bothering me over the past few weeks. More so than others because I'm in a change place, quote unquote. And I'm in an area in my life where I want to stop saying and I want to start doing. I want my feet and the work of my hands to match my mouthpiece. And one thing about me, I'm a planner. I have a million notebooks, binders, books, pens, color pencils, all that good stuff. And another thing, like, I can budget and plan a budget like up to a year or more if I want to. I'm about that life of being organized, but I'm about that life of being organized on paper in a lot of areas rather than not on paper. And that's just the thing. It's on paper, but I want it to manifest in other areas. And I'm gonna revisit what I just said on that in a minute. So just hang on. But since I'm about that life, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm not out here doing reckless things. I'm just out here doing like little things that I know if I manage better, then I would be set up and not only on paper but in reality. And lately I've been praying that God make me a good steward over this and make me a good steward over that. But I also been wanting to get back to a place where everything is just reset. Like, just let me start this again. And what I've come to realize is the thing with those fresh starts, before you get them, you have to know what to do with them. And you have to have a mindset and the action of, I'm going to do better with the fresh start when I get it, no matter what. And sometimes we don't get the fresh start until we go through the consequences of, girl, this is what happens if you mess it up. And life will continue to hand you those cycles until you learn from them. So, what I want to speak about today is how to identify and recognize your cycle and how to prepare to change that cycle, and also how to learn from your cycle and move on in it. I don't know if you guys listen to Jonathan McReynolds, um, one of the dopest song artists that I've heard, because sometimes it literally seems like God is sitting right beside him when he's, singing these songs. But he has a song called Cycles. And one of the lines in that song is, "The devil will learn from your mistakes, even if you don't." And just that line is like mind blowing because oftentimes we have this battle within ourselves like, why can't I just not spend money? Or why can't I save? Or why do I have to always go back to this dude, even though I know he did me wrong? These cycles, right? But the thing is, sometimes we beat ourselves up so hard, we start to take ownership of the downfall, like the whole entire downfall, the whole entire cycle. And we start to take ownership of the cycle. And the problem with that is the obvious point of ownership, right? It's ours, it's yours, it's mine. And we start wearing these cycles, or we start wearing these bad habits to the point where we have literally adopted this action and have literally tried to make it a part of us. Like we try to sew that cycle into our blood. Like say an example, okay, I'm always spending, so I'm not good with money, or I'm a mess when it comes to finances, or I'm an overspender. Or another one, okay, I always go back to this man. Yo, I'm dumb as a bug that don't store food. I'm not capable of being loved because I don't even know what love is. Or I haven't finished school yet. School just ain't for me, and I'm just not meant to go to school. I don't have the brain for school, or I don't have the patience for school. Or I'm not a talker, so how can I network my business? Or I'm too shy, so I can't market. You know, those are taking so much ownership of, the cycle and really putting it on ourselves. We literally take on the characteristics of our bad habits and wear them as if they're embedded in our very skin, as if they are red and white blood cells running through our veins. And that's where the devil jumps in on us like a flea on one of those shaggy dogs. They have so much hair on them, you can't even see that flea. All you see is the dog scratching it. And some people will look at their dog and call it dirty, but they don't see the flea that's provoking the dog. So today, I want y'all to learn to recognize when that flea is on you and attacking you. And I want you to stop calling yourself dirty about something that you can grab a special shampoo and wash off, because Jesus is our special shampoo. And baby, he died for us not to take the shame, but to give it to him and become a new creature. And okay, I ain't gonna get too deep on y'all, but I just wanted to express that. And that was a perfect way that the Holy Spirit just slapped on me. Okay, so I had to give it to y'all. But I'm gonna reel it back in and give us some good practical points to stop running through these cycles, to come into these positions of power that God has called us to be in. He didn't call us to keep running in cycles. He's calling us to break these cycles and curses and reposition our minds and align ourselves with His will. And y'all gonna hear me say that a lot because that's the mission of this podcast, is to heal us and to heal our minds from a place that we've been held captive too long. So, point number one, how do we identify and recognize our cycles? And this can be really simple if you are at a point where you can already examine yourself or what you struggle with, or it can be really hard if you're not ready to like dig in a little bit. But if you are ready, and even if you aren't, just take it. Okay, you may need it later. We identify and recognize those cycles by looking into our most irritated spaces. And also by simply looking at our behaviors and our triggers of those behaviors and our reactions to them. So, when we dig into our most irritated spaces, we can answer some of these questions. So, the question of what have you been feeling a pull to change? And we look at that by looking at our behaviors and our reactions to them. So, say you've been experiencing a feeling of or a pull to start saving, right? Why do you feel like you can't save? And what behavior are you engaging in that counteracts your goal? So, for example, I want to save, right? every time I go to the store, or every time I go to Target or wherever wherever your favorite store is, I go on the home aisle, right? And I always seem to pick up something that I don't need. And that one thing turns into two. And then eventually I've ended up spending $232.45 of things I don't need and the things I didn't go in there for. We've identified the behavior is a sense of overspending, impulsivity, a lack of restraint, but also we need to examine the behaviors that may be due to subconscious thoughts of, okay, I want to live a life where I can just come here and spend, or I can just come here and pick up what I want. And that's why I did it. That's what I did today. That's why I spent so much. I'm getting kind of ahead of myself when I'm going into the subconscious thoughts, but I just want y'all to bear with me. So when we've established the behavior, right? Overspending when we would like to save, impulsivity where restraint would be, we can identify those reactions and triggers or whatever. You going into the home aisle where you're supposed to be on the grocery aisle. So things like that. That's how we identify and recognize our cycles. Another reason or another example could be I want to network. But every time I get invited somewhere, I think about how people will look at me, or if I go, I stumble over my words. I think everybody is staring at me. So I don't go. I hide. I make up excuses, or I make up other plans, or I simply say that I don't like people and people don't like me. And the behavior in this scenario is hiding, is generating excuses or assumptions, is simply not showing up. So, what I want you guys to do this week is to first identify your behaviors that place you in the cycle of whatever you feel like you're repeating, whether it be not having money to save or spend, or being depressed, um, being more independent, having this pull to be more independent, or a pull to shut your mouth when you're angry, or, you know, what is your pull? What do you feel like you should change? What do you feel like the cycle that you're in? Is it physical, financial, spiritual? I want y'all to dig in that way. So step two is how to prepare to change that cycle. And this is basically getting yourself into the mindset of, I am going to shed this cycle. I am going to break this generational curse. It stops at me. The buck stops here, buddy. And this step is mental. This step is the pep talk and the looking over the playbook before the players go on the field before the big game. This is that. You have to be mentally prepared for your opponent. And while you yourself are your opponent, it's also the enemy, knowing that when you step up in that conference, as soon as you see all those people, he knows this, you will shrink back into a hole. So he brings a crowd and he makes sure that you see a woman that looks as if she has it all together to make you feel inferior and make you want to turn around and go back home, rather than walking there with your head held high like you're a child of the king that's really about that life. You have to mentally prepare to go in Target or whatever grocery store y'all in, grab your tea, your cheese, your toilet paper, and head on out the store and not even go in the whole mile if you know that's what you're struggling with. And then you do a little dance when you walk out the store and see you only spent 1934 on that receipt instead of 200. This step is focus. This step is, I'm gonna show me the me that God made. So, some practical steps are, read about who you are and read about how God made you and read about who God is, because He is who made us. God made us beautifully, fearfully, and wonderfully made. God made us, and He gave us the spirit of love and of power and of a sound mind. God didn't give us the spirit of fear. God is a God of restraint and self control. God is a God of authority, and He's given us the authority to speak and to loose and to bind. So you look up who you are and you look in to see who you are. You write it down. You start citing who you are and you start believing who you are. And you will literally begin to peel off those clothes that you have assigned yourself. Moses said, I'm not a talker. Jeremiah said, I'm too young. Paul said, I'm the least of the least. Sarah said, oh, but I'm too old. And Naomi said, "Don't call me Naomi." But, okay, but there's a but in there. So we aren't going to wear those raggedy clothes that sometimes we think we deserve. When God has given us a robe and a ring, okay? Come into who you are. Write down the steps you will begin to take. I will not turn down that aisle. I will not get angry. I will not get angry and give into sin, but I will turn my anger and make it productive. I will not be shy and I will speak to a new person that will benefit my business. I will show them what I got and what I'm made of. I will not be timid in areas or situations such as dot dot dot. I will not be weak for him and go when he calls. I deserve more. I'm gonna get my Boaz, okay? And it's baby steps sometimes. Be patient with yourself. Step three, y'all, is implementing the changes. And this step is making sure that you keep that acknowledgement of your cycle at the forefront of your mind. And then applying step two, those pep talks, the things you've read and reminded yourself of, and the baby steps or the steps that you've written down when the situation arises. And it's getting to the big day. The big day is here. This this man done texted me, "What you doing?" at 2 a.m. Or I'm at this big conference, or this person just asked me if I knew anybody with a business, and it's me. Or I'm so angry right now. I knock all this. Uh, or I'm at Target and they got this darn display of $5 fines right when I walk in the door. What do I do? First off, breathe, sis. You prepared for this. And ain't nothing to it but to do it. I know that's so cliche, but it's legit, okay? Pep talk while you walk in your mind. Do it. You got this. I will not go down that aisle because I'm saving this month. I'm gonna tell him about my business because I'm gonna be the best I can be in my lane, and that starts by putting my business out there and opening my mouth. I'm not gonna answer your text because it's 2 a.m. and I'm nobody's booty call. I deserve more. Decline, do not disturb, or better yet, block. I am not going to get so angry and tear off everything off these walls. First of all, I don't feel like cleaning it up, but also because I could go to the gym and work off some of this anger. Or this situation has fueled me to start a podcast and talk about this, okay? Or whatever this situation is, okay? And you do it. And that's just day one. And you're going to have many days of having to handle yourself accordingly. And guess what? All of those days aren't going to be a success. But guess what? A lot of them will. And the more you do it, the more your bad habit becomes a memory. And you will begin to look back on yourself as if God made you new. Because it's definitely not a you strength. You're gonna need to keep praying and asking God for strength continuously in your weak times. But in those weak times when you feel like I just can't do it, it's calling me like Lance Gross was calling Judith on that Tyler Perry movie. But God is a sustainer and He's a present help. So we seek Him in those situations. We pray to Him in those situations. And we go forth in those situations as if we are strong. And as if we know who we are. And as if we know who God has called us to be and that He's called us to do better and have better. Okay? And then in that one area of consistency, a fire will begin to overtake your life in all areas. That one spark is gonna, oh my God, light up your forest. And you're just gonna be unstoppable from there. And see how God has elevated you in such a way that women and people are gonna be like, what in the world? How did she go from that to this? And what you gonna tell them, sis? God did it. And not only that, you'll be able to help others too just by your walk. So remember, sis, these bad habits and cycles are not a part of you. Strip off those old clothes and put on the new. Until next time, y'all.